Want to sound like, well, a native English speaker.
Mm.
Welcome back to Chat Like a Native. You know we're all about leveling up that English fluency.
That's right.
And today we're unlocking the secret code to sounding effortlessly natural.
Ooh, a secret code. I like that.
It's all about conditional sentences.
Ah, yes.
But forget those textbook examples.
yeah, they're so boring.
We're going deep into the real world. We'll explore how native speakers actually use these conditional sentences every single day.
I mean, the thing about conditionals is they can express so much.
Right.
It's like possibilities, plans, regrets,
Yeah.
all wrapped up in this neat little package.
It's almost like they have this hidden power
Right.
to unlock all these different ways of talking about things that, could happen.
Right.
Might have happened.
Could always happen.
Always happen
Hmm.
under certain circumstances. All right, so let's decode this conditional code.
Okay.
I remember back in the day learning about first conditional, second conditional, third conditional. Honestly, it was a blur.
It can be a bit overwhelming, yeah.
I just want to see how we can actually use these in real conversations.
Well, it's one thing to memorize the rules,
Right.
but the real magic happens when you can just use them naturally,
Mm-hmm.
without even thinking about it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like learning to dance.
Oh,
At first, you're counting the steps. You're like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But then eventually you start feeling the rhythm,
Okay.
and that's what we want to do with conditionals.
Find that English rhythm.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the simplest type, the zero conditional. What's the deal with those?
All right, so the zero conditional, it's all about expressing universal truths.
Hmm.
Things that always happen under specific conditions,
Okay.
like a cause and effect relationship that's always true.
Right.
A classic example is, if you heat ice, it melts.
Right. So it's not really about hypothetical situations,
No.
but more about stating facts or describing habits.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? You can often replace if with when in these sentences.
Oh, okay.
Because the outcome is guaranteed. So you could say, when you heat ice, it melts.
Mm-hmm.
And it means the same thing.
Right.
It just emphasizes that inevitability.
Okay, so that's a really helpful tip.
Yeah,
It makes zero conditional seem a lot less intimidating.
absolutely.
It's not what if, it's more about what always happens.
Right,
So it's almost like a guaranteed outcome.
exactly.
Okay.
And you can use them for instructions, too.
Okay.
Like, if you see John, tell him I said hello.
Right.
It's still a factual statement,
Right.
but it's got that subtle action implied.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got facts, habits, instructions, all in this one little structure.
Right.
I'm starting to think zero conditionals are actually quite useful.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than I originally thought.
They're like the foundation.
Okay.
Once you master them,
Yeah.
you can build upon them
Okay.
to express even more complex ideas.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork with zero conditionals.
Yeah,
Now let's move on to the first conditional, which is about possibilities in the future.
exactly. First conditionals, they're all about those real possibilities.
Okay.
Things that have a good chance of happening depending on a certain condition being met.
Okay.
So you're setting up a condition.
Right.
And then describing the likely outcome.
So what's a really classic example of a first conditional
Okay.
in action?
Imagine you're making plans with a friend
Mm-hmm.
and you say, if the weather is nice tomorrow, we'll go to the beach.
Okay.
There you go. You've got your condition, good weather, and then the likely outcome, a beach trip.
Right. It's almost like we're peering into the future and saying, hey, if this happens, then this is likely to happen too.
Exactly. And you can use them for warnings, too.
Okay.
Promises, offers, all sorts of things.
What's
Like,
the key?
if you don't leave now, you'll miss your train.
Right. That's a warning.
That's a warning, yeah. Or, if you help me with this project, I'll buy you lunch.
Ooh, an offer.
There you go.
It's fascinating how we can use just this one structure to navigate so many different social situations,
It really is, yeah.
from making plans to warnings to promises. Now, I remember there are these subtle ways to tweak first conditionals
Right.
to maybe make them sound less certain,
Mm-hmm.
soften them a little bit.
Absolutely.
What are some of those ways?
Okay, so instead of always using will in the outcome clause,
Okay.
you can swap it out with might or could
Mm-hmm.
to introduce a little uncertainty.
Right.
For example, if it rains, we might have to cancel the picnic.
Okay, so it suggests there's still a possibility of the picnic happening.
Yeah, it's not set in stone.
But the rain could change things.
Exactly. It's just a touch of flexibility.
Right.
And another thing you can do is use going to instead of will.
Okay.
which indicates a more definite plan or intention.
Right.
So, like, if I finish work early, I'm going to go for a run.
Okay, so it emphasizes that you've already decided to do it.
Exactly.
It's not a spontaneous thing, it's a plan.
It's a plan, yeah.
So will expresses general likelihood.
Right.
Might or could adds that uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And going to implies that predetermined plan.
Exactly.
So cool how just the small word choices can create such different meanings.
Nuances.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, before we jump to second conditionals, what's one of the biggest mistakes English learners make with first conditionals?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay, tell me.
Using will in the if clause,
Oh, yeah.
even though it's talking about a future possibility.
I've definitely been guilty of that
Yeah,
one.
we've all been there.
So you'll hear people say, if I will go to the store,
Yeah,
I will buy some milk.
exactly.
But it should be, if I go to the store, I will buy some milk.
Exactly.
Present tense.
The if clause uses present simple,
Right.
even though it's talking about a future event.
It's one of those little quirky English grammar things.
Yeah, it is.
That can trip people up.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's a good reminder to be mindful of those verb tenses.
absolutely.
All right. So we've decoded zero and first conditionals. We're on a roll.
We are.
But now let's venture into the realm of, like, what if?
Ooh, I like this.
The hypothetical situations.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the second conditional?
All right, second conditionals. This is where our imaginations can run wild.
Okay.
We're talking about those unlikely, even impossible scenarios.
I love a good what if.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so think of it this way. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world.
Classic.
Classic example.
Yeah.
You're imagining a situation that's highly unlikely in the present,
Right.
but you're exploring the possibilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fun way to just play with different realities
Mm-hmm.
and consider what you might do.
Okay.
And it's not just for expressing wishes or dreams.
Okay.
They're also great for giving advice
Right.
in a gentle way. You know, like if a friend's having a problem, you could say,
Yeah.
if I were in your shoes, I would try talking to them directly.
Right.
So you're not saying you should do this, but more like, here's what I would do in that situation.
It softens the advice.
Exactly. It creates that empathy
Yeah.
and understanding.
I like it.
Now, there's another interesting nuance here.
Okay.
Using could instead of would in the second conditional
Mm-hmm.
shifts the focus from intention to possibility.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if I had more free time, I could take up painting. Implies it's a possibility,
Right.
but maybe not totally committed.
That's set in stone.
But if I had more free time, I would take up painting.
Mm.
Sounds like you've already made up your mind.
Exactly.
You just need the time.
Yeah, it's subtle,
It is.
but it adds that depth.
I like those little subtle distinctions.
It's all about those subtleties. Yeah.
They make you sound more native.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got wishes, dreams, gentle advice, possibilities versus intentions. Second conditionals are really packing a punch.
They are.
But before we move on, I have to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, boy.
The if I were versus if I was debate.
Here we go.
It's something that has puzzled English learners for ages.
It's a classic conundrum. Technically, if I were is grammatically correct,
Right.
especially in formal writing.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, you'll hear native speakers use both
Okay.
in everyday conversations.
So it's one of those things where knowing the proper form is important,
Right.
but also realizing that people use both.
It happens, yeah.
In real life, context is key.
Context is key, absolutely.
All right, I'm feeling pretty confident with second conditionals now,
Good.
but I know there's another level to conquer.
Oh, yeah.
The third condition, what challenges await us there?
Third conditionals, they can be a bit more emotionally charged
Oh.
because they deal with past hypotheticals,
Ah.
those what-if scenarios that could have happened
Right.
but didn't.
Land of coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Exactly.
I'm ready to explore those alternative paths.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Think about this. If I had left the house earlier, I wouldn't have missed the bus.
Okay.
There's often an implied sense of regret or disappointment in these statements
Mm-hmm.
because you're reflecting on a past event
Yeah.
and imagining a different outcome.
Like we're looking back and saying, oh, if only I had done things differently.
Exactly.
It can get a bit wistful.
It can be a bit wistful, yeah.
Right.
But they can also be used to express relief
Okay.
or even a sense of gratitude for how things turned out.
Right.
Like, if I hadn't studied so hard, I wouldn't have passed the exam.
Right.
Implies that you're happy with the outcome, even though it required effort
We're acknowledging the importance of our past choices and how they led us to where we are now.
Exactly. And you know what I find fascinating about third conditionals?
What?
They often become heavily contracted
Oh, yeah?
in spoken English.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I would have, you'll hear, I would, or even I'd have, and I had known becomes I'd known.
Absolutely. Contractions are key to sounding natural and fluent.
It's all about those subtle cues.
So a native speaker might say something like,
Yeah.
if I'd known it was your birthday, I'd brought a cake.
Exactly.
Much more natural than the full uncontracted form.
Way more natural.
So we've got relief gratitude and contractions.
Right.
Third conditionals are a powerful way to express those complex feelings about the past.
They are powerful.
But hold on.
Uh-oh.
Didn't you mention something about mixed conditionals?
I did.
Those sound even more mind-bending.
Yes, mixed conditionals.
Okay.
They're like a time traveler's dream,
Okay.
blending different time frames within a single sentence.
I'm intrigued but a little nervous.
That's understandable.
Tell me more about these temporal gymnastics.
All right, so the most common type of mixed conditional
Okay.
combines a past condition with a present result. Imagine someone saying, if I had studied harder in school, I would have a better job now.
Okay.
They're linking a hypothetical past action to a present consequence.
Reflecting on how a different choice in the past could have led to a different present reality.
Exactly. It's a way of pondering those roads not taken.
Right.
And how they might have shaped our lives.
Is there another way that these mixed conditionals can be structured?
Yes, you can also have a present condition
Okay.
leading to a past result.
Okay.
For example, if I were more outgoing, I would have gone to that party last night.
Okay.
You're using a current characteristic, your personality, to explain why you didn't do something in the past.
It's like saying, this is who I am now.
Right.
And that's why I made that decision back then.
Exactly. It connects your present self to your past actions.
Wow. These mixed conditionals add a whole new layer of complexity.
I do.
And nuance.
It's fascinating.
To our understanding of conditionals.
It is.
It's amazing how we can weave together these different time frames.
I know, right? It really highlights the flexibility
So seamless.
and expressiveness of English grammar.
You know what's interesting is that mixed conditionals aren't usually taught in beginner courses.
Not really, no.
But they're actually quite common in everyday speech.
You hear them all the time.
So we're unlocking a secret level of fluency here.
Absolutely.
These mixed conditionals are like the secret handshake of native speakers.
I love that analogy.
Right.
It's perfect.
Once you start noticing them, you'll hear them everywhere.
You will. And you know, another great way to practice is to record yourself speaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Use your phone or your computer.
Okay.
And record short monologues where you just experiment with the different types.
Okay.
Talk about a regret that you have using the third conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Or imagine a future possibility using the first.
Right.
It's a great way to become more aware of your own language patterns.
Okay, yeah.
And identify any areas where you might need to improve.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal language coach.
Yeah. Right.
Right in your pocket.
Exactly.
You can listen back and analyze how you're using these conditionals.
It's a fun way to track your progress and see how far you've come.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
You know, I think the most important thing to remember is that conditionals are more than just grammar rules.
Okay.
They're tools
Oh, yeah.
for expressing a wide range of thoughts, feelings, ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They allow us to explore different realities,
Yeah.
offer advice,
Right.
express regrets, make plans, and so much more.
They really add depth and richness to our conversations.
Exactly. And by mastering them, you're unlocking that whole new level of fluency and expressiveness.
Right.
You'll be able to communicate more effectively, connect with native speakers on a deeper level, and really make your English shine.
So for all our listeners out there, I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
Try using one new type of conditional today in a real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to how native speakers are using them, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Absolutely. It's all about pushing yourself beyond that comfort zone
Yeah.
and embracing the beauty of the English language.
And you know what? Mastering conditionals might not make you rich, but it will make you sound more natural,
Oh, yeah.
confident, and engaging.
It's an investment that's worth it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on Chat Like a Native.
It was fun.
Until next time, keep practicing and keep those conditionals flowing.
Happy chatting.